Tell Me More podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. Hello and welcome to Tell Me More. Our guest today is the wonderful Ceci Jeffries. CeCe is the founder of a coaching service which offers independent support, mentoring and guidance to women and men confronted with fertility issues. After experiencing infertility firsthand, CeCe is passionate about giving the emotional impact of fertility issues and treatments the attention they deserve. CeCe uses her social media to connect with people struggling with fertility issues, and through her empathetic nature and witty sense of humour, she makes you feel seen, safe and supported. My name is Olivia Molly Rogers, and I'm excited to get comfortable in the uncomfortable with you and remind you that nobody is perfect and everybody has something going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Ceci, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. We haven't met before, but I feel like we've been online friends for a while.
Totally. Very long time.
I came across your page, your fertility page, when I was going through my own struggles with fertility, and straight away I was scrolling for a really long time because there's a lot of great content on there, and I felt so seen, and I was like, oh my God, where was this before? Because I'd already been going through it for a bit, and yeah, it's just amazing. So I would love for you to tell me about what you do and how you got to do what you are doing now.
Thank you. No, well, really it started with my husband and I being knocked over the head with an infertility diagnosis. So we got married and started trying for a baby, and after about 8 months, things weren't looking great. So I had a few tests and we were knocked over the head with a male infertility diagnosis, and our world came absolutely crashing down. And it's one of those things where it's 1 in 6 people are affected by infertility, but you honestly feel like you're 1 in 6 million. And my anxiety went through the roof. I'd never experienced a panic attack. I'd never experienced, proper anxiety before. And that just, hit me within probably a month of the diagnosis. The overwhelming uncertainty and fear about what we were going to do. I think the realization that you're not going to have a child the old-fashioned way and you have to do IVF is really, really hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, and it's nothing you ever had planned. And you look at everyone who gets to choose when and how many children they have, and you think, oh my God, that's so unfair that we don't have that. So from that day, honestly, I can say hand on heart, from that day I realised that there was no support. You would leave a doctor's appointment and you would go home and sit on the couch and you'd be like, what the fuck do we do now? There's nothing, you don't want to get on the Google forums and go down that path because that's going to send you into a, absolute spin. And
how long ago was this?
This was in 2000 so probably 8 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So, and this was really before Instagram, really took off in terms of people starting to share their stories more and things like that, which has been fantastic. But still, the fertility process is very much about, the egg and the sperm and the embryo and what it does and the physical side of things. But even after being in Copenhagen recently for the big fertility conference, the big finding from that was just patient care was so low, across the whole of, the world, the clinics across the world, So that's something that, I just, again, was, my business was really validated there as well, that just people need support. I mean, going through finding out you can't have a baby the old-fashioned way, or whether it's infertility or whatever it is it's likened to a cancer diagnosis, and you're just left to your own devices to, find a way and navigate, some good doctors and some not so good doctors. And so
it is a very lonely experience.
Very.
Which is why I felt so relieved when I found your page, because I think when you're going through it, I don't know if you found this too, it's hard to talk to friends at first, particularly friends who might already have kids, or friends who are nowhere near that point because they can't even wrap their heads around it. And I feel like for most of your, young adult life, you're trying to not get pregnant and you just kind of think, oh, well, when I change my mind and I want to get pregnant, it'll just happen. But obviously once you do start talking to people, it's so common that that's not how it works. How long is it sort of typical to be trying to conceive before you look into other options?
Yeah, it's a really good question actually, and it's something, I get asked a lot. Look, for my opinion is it's your body, it's your life. If you want to get tested when you've been trying for 3 months and you want to just find out some basic hormone tests, you want to find out, have an ultrasound to find out you're ovulating, have a day 21 progesterone test, whatever it is. If your if you want to get your partner tested, like we are obviously having babies a lot later now. And time is very precious with fertility. I just think, and obviously a lot of people now are freezing their eggs, which is incredible for a number of reasons. But I just feel, there used to be probably, 5 years ago, it was try for 12 months and then you can go and get tested, which I totally disagree with. I think anyone over sort of 34 who's been trying for 6 months, go and get a test just to check everything's okay. That's me. That's because I want to know all the information. And I think, it is our body, and it's something
that was me. I wanted to get I wanted to get tested straight away.
Yeah.
Because I feel like knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
You're better off knowing if something's not right and then trying to fix it.
Absolutely.
Rather than just sort of trying aimlessly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, some doctors, almost make you feel bad for asking for these tests. And I think that's a huge thing of what I do with Fertility Collective is just empowering people to advocate for themselves. And, the doctor works for you. You can ask whatever questions you want. You can ask for whatever tests you want at any time. It is your life. So, there's no shame in that. Yeah.
What were you doing before you got into this?
Corporate. So corporate. I was advertising agencies in London and Sydney for 10 years. And then, thought, yeah, that's my job. And, and literally I remember standing on Clarence Street in the city working for George Patzweiner at the time. And I got the call about, diagnosis. And that's when I had my first panic attack and got the call saying, this is your diagnosis and you're going to have to do IVF. And, it's something, you never, ever plan on. You never think it's going to happen to you. And, and I had to quit my job. I made up some ridiculous excuse that I had glandular fever to my boss at the time because I could not function. I couldn't go back to work. There was no way I could have, and I was fortunate enough to be able to, have 4 weeks off to work out what I wanted to do. And then I realized I had to go back and contract with something a lot less, demanding and a bit more flexible, which was good in advertising. You can do that. But it completely, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't go back to corporate now. Yeah. But it was, that was what I was doing first.
So did you then leave straight away and start this straight away, or was it not until you had been through your IVF journey that you started this?
Yeah, I wanted to have my children first. Yeah. Yeah. So once we, got the formula right and worked out how we were going to have children, then I was ready to launch this business. And I knew I did some obviously freelance advertising in between, sort of, a bit of for some income and things like that. But I always knew this is what I wanted to do. There was just such a huge gap. There was just the patient care and you probably have seen a snippet of it with your, the egg freezing. It's just, there's the focus is all on the physical side. And, an infertility diagnosis, it takes over your whole entire life, and life keeps going. You still have to go to work. You still have to go and see your friends. You still have to, go to a family function, and life goes on, and you're dealing with this humongous black cloud over your head, of this humongous cloud of uncertainty. Of if and when it's going to happen, and it's really overwhelming. And, when we have, no control over the situation, our confidence gets completely flipped on its head. Mm-hmm. And then we feel like a shell of ourselves. Like CeCe going through infertility was so much different to CeCe 10 years before that. You know, I was this confident, life of the party, you know, like whatever girl. And then this happened, and I completely withdrew from everything and anyone I could. And I, you know, was riddled with anxiety. Had no idea if I was ever going to become a mum. And yeah, it was really, the feeling is still so strong inside me, which I think is why I, you know, just, obviously want to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, and it's why you can help so many people, because I think
that feeling
people going
leave.
through it, unless you can be empathetic, but it's so different once you've actually experienced some of those feelings. I know when I was trying to get pregnant with my ex-husband, and we actually first started trying in 2020 when our wedding was postponed, because we thought, maybe we'll flip the order of things. I've wanted to be a mum since I was a baby. Like, I used to carry babies around everywhere, as in toy babies, not real babies. But that's so in me. I know it's not for everyone, but I have just always wanted to be a mum. So I thought, when the time is right, it'll just happen. We tried for a bit and it didn't happen. And then we thought, okay, we've kind of missed the window where it would be an okay amount of time before the wedding. So now we'll just wait till after the wedding. And then, started trying again. I was like, okay, well, that period of time, does that then count towards my next amount of time trying? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like mentally, you know, every negative pregnancy test after that, it felt consecutive from the months that I'd tried before. So even the first one, I was so down about it and so upset. And instantly you sort of feel like your body's failing you. A lot of blame on myself. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I was so depressed. I mean, in hindsight, there were other things going on too. But you do become withdrawn because you're trying to do all the right things in order to get pregnant. So whether that's, you know, less intense exercise, not going out as much, trying to get more sleep, you know, making all these sacrifices. And then when it's not working, it is the worst feeling in the world, because you're like, I'm doing everything. Like, what could I possibly do differently? And
that's this ancient stigma, really, which I call it. It's like, there is no amount of wine that can get you pregnant. There's no amount of holidaying that can get you pregnant. There is no amount of relaxing that can get you pregnant. There is no amount of thinking positively that can get you pregnant. You know, there is no amount of, you know, this stick. So really, when someone says to you, or just relax, it's insulting.
And they say as well, I had this so many times, it'll be when you're not thinking about it that it'll just happen. Yeah. I'm like, how can you possibly not think about it when literally every day, pretty much all I'm doing throughout my day is things to help me get pregnant. Like, you're taking the supplements and all of the things. Yeah. How do I not think about it? Like, you can't.
Totally. It's as soon as you wake up that morning until you go to bed at night, that's all you think about.
And you're tracking your period, you're tracking ovulation. Like, literally, you can't unthink all those things.
No, exactly.
And once you've done the research to know what you're, you know, supposed to do, you can't unlearn it. No. And then just sort of like
ignore
hope for the best.
Exactly. And then I
found that really frustrating. Yeah. And that's something I love on your page, is how much you talk about the annoying things that people say. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So I guess, you know, what we touched on before is just, you know, relaxing and then not thinking about it. And it's just it's insulting. Like, you know, endometriosis, for example, is not caused by stress. Male factor infertility is not caused by stress. Miscarriage is not caused by stress. There are every possible cause of not falling pregnant after a year, which is classified as infertility, is not caused by stress. Or, so, you know, when someone does say, you just need to relax and not think about it, it's insulting, you know. And that's, I think, something which people need to take infertility, and I hate the word infertility. We need to change it to something else, not falling pregnant after a year. People need to take it seriously. So, because then those flippant comments like, just relax, you know, won't, you know, they just won't be thrown around, because it is a serious condition. It's, you know, 1 in 6 people. It's a medical condition. You know, it's nothing anyone did, said, thought, ate, drank, none of that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's really a huge part of Fertility Collective's Instagram page, is just, you know, making people aware. And I love that, you know, people share my posts with their family and friends who aren't struggling, just to let them know that that's what they're going through and what not to say.
Yeah, I think a big part of what you do isn't obviously just supporting people going through it, but it's awareness to change people's language around fertility.
Yeah.
Because you also get people, and I know it actually does come from a good place, but I think it's just like a lack of awareness when they say, oh, you know, my friend, when they went on a holiday, they felt pregnant like that.
Yeah.
Like, just go on a holiday.
Exactly. You're right. And that's the thing, though, is people do want to help and they do want to support you, and they just don't know how. And to know infertility, you have to have lived it. The emotions that come up, you know, the anger, the injustice of it all, the uncertainty, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the, you know, jealousy, all of those feelings, which are so foreign for most of us and so uncomfortable, they come up with this, you know, with a fertility struggle. And, you know, you only understand that if you've been through it.
Definitely. How did you get through the time that you were doing your IVF treatment?
Deep breath. It was very hard. I won't lie. It was awful. I did a combination of psychologist. I did a combination of, you know, every single, I needed to empower myself with seeing as many doctors as I could. And thank God we did, because we wouldn't have children if we didn't see got the sixth opinion.
Wow.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other episode.
Exactly. But it was really just, for me, it was getting as much information as I could, and talking to the right people. It was, you know, dealing with my anxiety. And I did have to, you know, go on medication for a short period of time because I couldn't function. The anxiety was through the roof. And, you know, I shout that from the ceilings to every single person I work with. It's not going to affect your pregnancy. It's not going to affect your, you know, talk to your doctor, of course, but it's not going to affect any IVF outcomes. And I think there's a lot of people you know, they fight that and they suffer a lot more than they need to. And it's only for a short period of time. It's a horrendous chapter of our lives. But yeah, obviously talk to your doctor about that. But that definitely helped for the time being. And then really having a plan at the end. And just, you know, it was hard though. I can't say I did it amazingly well. But I think when I started to control what I could control, I got my confidence back.
Okay.
And that's where I started Fertility Collective and the new membership now, which is all about controlling what we can control. You know, we can control how we start our days, how we finish our days, what we fill our minds with, you know, all how we sort of manage our stress and things like that. Because at the end of the day, stress does not cause infertility, but infertility causes a shitload of stress. And it's about managing that stress so our whole world doesn't fall apart around us.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the thing with a fertility struggle is, you know, a lot of people are doing it in a silent environment still, and that has broad knock-on effects to their work and their family life and their friends and social life. And so I feel really passionately about helping people control, you know, as much of their life as they can, as they're dealing with this beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We touched very briefly before on male factor infertility, and you mentioned that was part of the reason that you had to go down the IVF path. I feel like that's something that isn't often spoken about, and a lot of the time I know I felt like it was my body failing me. It was just what I assumed. I'm like, something's broken. It's not working. It's not doing its job. I'm doing something wrong. And I think a lot of women feel that way. And a lot of people also assume that people who are going through infertility, it's because there's something wrong with the woman. Can you talk to me about male factor infertility?
So male factor affects 40% of couples.
Wow.
So 40%. So, you know, in my community at the moment, I could honestly say to you, it's over 50% are dealing with male factor.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're right. It is you know, it's awful that the initial, you know, blame is on the female, and, you know, we go and have, I mean, I was sent off for high cosies, which are really invasive tests, you know, before a simple sperm test, which is a pretty pleasant little test for a boy.
But also
for a guy.
like the amount of money that we have to spend as a woman on the tests that we do.
Totally.
It's all so invasive, poking and prodding.
When a simple
and they just have to give
ejaculation,
a little sample
little cup,
and have an okay time doing
I know,
it.
and have their result,
Yeah.
you know, and we have to go at a certain day. We have to have a full
Yeah.
bladder. We have to have all the, so, you know, that's wrong in my mind. I feel like, you know, I think, there's, anyway, things are getting better with testing. It's all about having the right GP. I think, you know, for everyone who's trying at home now and it hasn't happened and they want to do some tests, it's the right GP.
Yeah.
That is absolutely key. With male factor, so 40% is obviously male factor, and it is just it's this huge unknown where, you know, again, a lot of money in terms of research money has been thrown at female factor, and there isn't as much that's been thrown at male factor still. So, you know, a lot of, you know, we know a lot more about the female body than the male reproductive system, and it's, you know, it's scary. And it's very unknown, and, you know, there's a lot of people out there who have absolutely no answers as to why, you know, their sperm is the way it is.
Yeah. I also feel like there's a bit of an ego thing with men that, like, I know as women we feel like we're failing, but we often feel like we're failing in every sense of the word, every part of life.
Yeah.
But I think for men, it's a real, like, kick in the guts because they're like, like, that's my masculinity.
Yeah. Even though it doesn't make any man any less of a man.
No, absolutely
you know,
not.
It's unfortunately, it's nothing, again, anyone said, you know, it's the same for the man. It's just, you know, you're still just as manly as the other man next to you. You just have, you know, it's a disease, you know, it's whether it's a arthritis, diabetes, a cancer, you know, Crohn's disease, they all classify as diseases, you know, and that's just the same as infertility. So
yeah, I want to talk about egg freezing.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I mentioned, I was doing fertility treatment, but that didn't work out because my marriage didn't work out. So I'm on a different path, and I think when I went through my breakup, one of the things that I found the hardest was grieving the path that I thought that I was on not being my path anymore, and the fact that I was so desperate to have kids, and then that was suddenly not anywhere, like I couldn't even see it in my future because I'm like, well, I don't know what's happening now. And, you know, the thought of trying to meet the next hopefully right person, I wouldn't want to rush into anything. I'd probably want to wait a couple of years before having a kid, and then that's so much time. And I'm 31, so I was panicking. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this because I do have a ticking clock. So I looked into egg freezing, and I did that this year, and I'm so glad that I did, because I think for me, what I found is it feels like this, I know it's not insurance, but it feels like some sort of insurance that, you know, if in 3 years' time I still haven't met the right person, I'm pretty okay with getting a sperm donor and doing it on my own.
Totally.
I had some mixed feedback though about egg freezing, which was interesting and not really what I expected.
Did you?
Yeah. I would love to know what you think about it.
Yeah. I will tell you, I think it's incredible. I am a huge advocate for it. I feel it is empowering us. You know, people are having babies later now. Absolutely. So you're never going to regret freezing your eggs, but you may regret not freezing your eggs. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I think if we can do it now. I mean, a lot of the fertility doctors I talk to, that's 70% of their client base now
Really?
are freezing eggs. Yeah, that's just egg freezing. So I talked to a doctor, the top doctor in New York the other day for a Q&A in my membership, and she said 75% of her patients were just egg freezing patients between the age of 28 and 38. Yeah, that's all she did. Yeah. And she, it's something which, you've got there. I guess obviously there's, it's a procedure, but
It wasn't that people were sort of, I don't know, questioning. It was, don't you know that it's not a definite?
Of course.
Which is like amazing. Yes, I
yeah,
know that.
Of course.
I'm doing this thing and putting my body through all of this.
We might get 1 egg from it. Or you might get 1 from 10. Whatever it is, whatever the stats are.
And also, you know, when you thaw them, they might not survive.
Yeah.
People sending me, there's footage of Kourtney Kardashian that none of hers made it through the thawing process. I'm like, why are you sending this to me when I'm literally like going through it?
I know. And also that wouldn't change you doing it now. You still want to give it a go.
Exactly.
You know, you're still going to do it now. Like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're not going to not do it because of Kourtney Kardashian.
Exactly. But then this is exactly why we need to have these conversations because the lack of awareness or lack of empathy.
Yeah. And the ridiculous advice that comes from everyone who thinks they know what you're going through, you know, and this is a real, look, I think society as a whole, you know, has shifted a lot. I think society, you know, there was this ancient stigma, you know, about fertility but now I think people are talking about it more, and people like you, you know, you sharing your story is absolutely incredible because I have a lot of people who follow your story and are really empowered by that. So I think that's incredible. And, you know, the fact you didn't share your egg numbers and all that stuff was incredible. The way you did it was amazing.
I think though that, like, thank you, I appreciate that. But if I had done it a few years ago, I wouldn't have known that that's a thing. I would love to sort of interrupt you and get you to say why that's important. Because I think there were so many people that said, I want to know how many eggs you got. Like, why won't you share how many eggs you got?
Yeah, the comparison. And it's the same reason why, you know, now I have a fertility nurse in my Fertility Collective, so people don't have to get on Google and compare to these random people on forums, because we don't know if this information is correct that people are writing, and people, you know, largely only tell bad stories on these forums. You know, that's what people do. People don't share their good stories. They get off the forums when they've got good news. They're not there. So I think, I think with sharing numbers, you know, it can really, it can deflate people a lot if their numbers aren't the same. There's a lot of competition, and really it doesn't matter. I mean, you may have 2 eggs and you may have 1 embryo and that's your baby. Yeah. I mean, you know, you may have 15 eggs and you don't have a blastocyst, you know, an embryo at the end. I mean,
my doctor said to me, because I said, what's the goal? Like, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm a numbers person.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what the goal is so I can hit that target.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm not giving you one because, and my doctor was amazing. I got very lucky. She said, you know, you could have a super low egg count and then you go through the process and you get 2 eggs and you're stoked. Or you might, you know, get a much higher number and not be happy. So she said it's all relative and it's all so personal. I can't give you a number to tell you to be happy with a certain number. And I thought that was such good advice.
It is really good advice.
Yeah.
It's how they fertilize, it's how they develop. It's nothing to do with, And so, very good that you didn't share numbers, because it can send people into a little spin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know that from other things on Instagram too. There's a lot of comparison.
Don't we just?
Yeah. What is the most common, probably, how do I want to word this? With the clients that you work with, what's the main reason that they turn to you? Like, what's the sort of trigger to get them to come and see you?
Largely anxiety.
Yeah.
And they are, obviously I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or anything like that, and they do see them separately, but they want someone to talk to who has been through it. And they, the membership I've got now, where sort of they can come in and we have a lot of anxiety, you know, stress, Pilates classes, breathwork classes, you know, nutrition, basically everything except the doctor now, in there, where they can just come and, you know, control what they can control, feel empowered, feel like they're doing everything they can in one place, as opposed to scrambling for, you know, a Pilates class here or, you know, a meditation here or whatever it is. So it is just, it's one hub of fertility wellness, but you also have access to a fertility nurse. And when I say fertility nurse, that's not because you're having fertility treatment. I have probably 40%, 50% of the people I have in my membership are just at home trying naturally, and they might have been trying for 6 months, 7 months, and they just, and they're the ones asking the fertility nurse all the questions as well. So it is, it's really people who are feeling like they want to just take control. I think that's the big thing. It's yes, they are feeling anxious about, the uncertainty and the overwhelm, but really it's people who are just wanting to take control and feel better. And obviously I'm here to support them and get them pregnant faster, save as much time as possible, because time is crucial. And we can waste months and months and months waiting for doctors and waiting for this question to be answered and waiting for this test. And we're fortunate in the city we live in because we can get answers quickly, but a lot of people can't.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
we did talk about this a bit before when I said you said that your anxiety had never really been a thing up until you started experiencing infertility. My depression was shocking during mine. I think I just thought it was anxiety, but looking back, I didn't want to do anything. I had no motivation. Every day was a bit of a slog. Why is that it takes such a mental toll when you're going through infertility?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My anxiety was through the roof, like I said, and I think there are so many reasons why it takes a mental toll. Number one is our pain is often hidden. The people around us, because our pain is hidden, we're not supported. There are triggers everywhere we look. Every supermarket we go into, there's babies. Every time we turn onto Instagram, there's a perfect family of 3 or 4. There's pregnancy announcements every single day in our friendship group because, this is our age group, so people are getting pregnant in our age group. So, our friends are getting pregnant easily. It's a constant, reminder of our struggle. And just, I think, people don't know how to support you, so they don't. And I think that's a huge one. I think there's also the constant fear about the future, the constant fear about whether we will become a mum. Or whether, if we have a child already, whether we will be able to give them a sibling. Yeah, we're grieving the life we thought we'd have. We weren't taught about this at school. We weren't taught about infertility at school.
No,
we were taught that.
And you also have this idea of like, okay, this year I'm going to have the first one. Exactly. A couple of years' time I have the second one.
Absolutely.
Like you've got it all planned out, and
because
then
that's
suddenly
what we're taught.
That's gone.
Exactly, it's gone. But people next to us are living that life. They're living the life, and they're not having to fight so hard for a child, and they're not having to spend all the money we're having to spend. And there's so many reasons why that it's like that perceived injustice of it all. Fertility is so unfair, and then really it's just a fertility struggle impacts your whole entire life. So in terms of the mental toll, I mean, our work, our friendship groups, our family, it affects our relationship with our partner. It affects everything. It's not just one little tiny thing. It impacts our whole entire life. So, I mean, the rise of anxiety and depression amongst people who are struggling to have a baby is huge.
I think what you were saying about the uncertainty of it all, it's hard to find hope, that it's all going to work out, or to reassure yourself that it's all going to work out when you know that it's not a guarantee. And I think depression feeds off of that, of, not having hope. And also the loneliness that comes with going through this, because like you said, it's this like silent battle that often people feel a bit ashamed, or they don't feel ready to talk about it, so they don't. When I was going through it, I spoke to my sister and said, it's so frustrating. I just see all these people posting about, I want to be happy for them, but it seems so easy for everyone. And my sister was like, it is very rare that someone does a pregnancy announcement and said, hey, it took us 18 months to get here, but we're pregnant.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, but you see the announcement and then you kind of just assume that it's happened easily and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
I think you're onto something there. Yeah. I think we need to do that. I think we need to be this was 2 rounds of IVF and now we're pregnant.
Yeah.
I think people now need
and
to
some
announce
people
it
do,
like that. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
they'll say,
some
you know,
people do.
it's been a journey to get here.
Yeah.
If they say something like
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it's so nice and reassuring
is.
because you're like, oh, okay, like it's
It
not
is.
just me. And
It is. Yeah, it is. It's just that perceived injustice of it all. And, you know, why do some people get to choose when and how many children they have, you know, when they want to, you know, and why do, you know, some people just not have to fight so hard and, you know, and struggle, you know, and I still, you know, I know I have 3 little children now, but I still hate pregnancy announcements. I'm
really? You're still triggered?
Yeah, I'm still so triggered. You know, I'm like, gosh, that was easy.
Yeah. But you don't know that it, like, we don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't know if there was. But I'm like, oh, you know, it's just that, you know, why do we have to fight so hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having a community like yours and knowing that there are so many other people going through it definitely helps. What advice would you give to the friends and family of someone who's going through infertility?
I love that question because I just, you know, and I do get asked that all the time. It's hard. And, you know, probably I know there's a lot of people who follow me who aren't struggling and they're the mums and the dads of the girls that are, or they're the sisters of the girls that are, which I love because they're just trying to educate themselves on how to support, you know, their person. But you know, number one is definitely educating yourself on a platform like Fertility Collective in terms of learning what not to say. Easy, number one. I would also say just forgive their absence, you know, and forgive them if they want to just take some time out, you know, and come back when they're ready. Don't put pressure on them if they say no to events for 6 months, that's absolutely fine. It's nothing personal, you know. Certainly be there for them and listen to them and just acknowledge their pain, you know. And that can just be saying, I'm so sorry you're going through that. This sucks for you. It's so unfair. That's all it needs to be. It's just rather than trying to fix it.
Or not saying anything.
I
think people often
ghosting.
Don't say something because they're scared they'll upset you.
Absolutely.
But then it feels like it's not.
Yeah.
The issue doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or it's being ignored.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's just absolutely acknowledging the pain is really important, and just saying, you know, this really sucks. And also just, you know, I just as a friend, you know, I think probably just send a message saying, look, I'm here. If you want to go for a walk and talk about your fertility struggle or talk about your fertility situation, I'm here. If you want to go for a walk and not talk about it, I'm here. If you want to go out for dinner and, you know, talk about how much this sucks, I'm here. Yeah. If you want me to, you know, just come over and sit with you and cry, I'm here. You know, it's just, it's really just being there and not being afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing because you're there. Yeah. I think, you know, obviously the advice, like, you know, trying to fix it, you can't fix it, you know, understanding you cannot fix it. You can't fix someone's fertility.
And they're doing everything that they can to try.
They have tried everything.
Yeah.
We have tried every carrot, ginger, shot, chili, oil, everything. We've whatever. We've tried it all. We've tried it all. So
yeah, putting your legs up in the air.
Oh my god, going on that many holidays.
God. Yeah. I would love for you. I feel like this is sort of two-pronged. If you could go back to CeCe pre-IVF, just before you were about to embark on your fertility journey, I feel like this advice would then also apply to someone who is about to embark on that journey too. What advice would you give yourself?
Deep breath. Prioritize myself and not be a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. I was such a people pleaser, and I felt so bad not going to a girls' lunch or a baby shower or, you know, so many things I'd feel bad about, and I'd beat myself up about this stuff at home and feel so guilty when really, like, this is just a chapter of your life and you are the most important person in this chapter. It's your body and you are trying to have a baby, and this is, you know, your friends will be there at the end. Your family are going to be there at the end. I think number one really is just set some boundaries, and I have learned that the hard way, and I now, if I did go back, I would deal with it so differently. But just remember that you are the priority, and everyone else can come, secondary to that. Also, just gather your support team, whether that's your hairdresser or your spray tanner or your cousin or your colleague or whatever it is, but just gather, 4 people around you who you can just share everything with, who are there. They don't need to be your best friend. They don't need to be your sister. They don't need to be your mum, whatever, if they are that's amazing too. But
sometimes it's easier with someone a bit removed.
Yeah. And that's really what people say about me. I'm like, I'm that person in your corner who's not your best friend and I'm not your family member, but we've got the same goal to get you pregnant, as soon as possible. So, but, it's just really prioritizing you and gathering your support team, and also just controlling what you can control, because that really helps the anxiety and the stress levels. And that's why the membership exists as well now, with, being able to do your Pilates and your breath work and just doing everything you can, because I think when there's no control, our confidence gets flipped on its head. And we are, CeCe is, a shell of herself compared to CeCe when she, 5-10 years earlier.
Yeah.
So.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
How can people, get on board with Fertility Collective?
It's just a membership now. So I've made it as affordable as possible because I want to help as many people as possible. So I've packed it full of as much goodness as I can. We've got a fertility nurse in there who's answers questions 24/7, all your questions, so you don't have to get on Google. And then we have, Q&As with doctors where you can ask the doctor the questions via me, and I'll ask them all your questions, which is incredible.
So
good. And I'm really picky about the doctors I get on.
I bet you are.
There are some good ones and there are some not so good ones. And then, all sorts of, tools and tips and, in there. So it's just a membership fee, which is $24 a month. And
amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. You're so good.
Yeah.
I would love to finish with a little segment called Oranges and Lemons. I actually gave you some warning on this. I would love to know if you have an orange of the day, which is something good that's happened, and a lemon of the day, which is something not so good.
My orange is talking to you.
Oh,
I mean that. I really do. We both, been in supporting each other over Instagram.
Yeah.
We're both born and bred Adelaide, so we've got we're
Adelaide girls have to support each other.
Exactly. But no, I think having but being on here today is amazing, because I feel like a lot of people in your community would be trying to have a baby.
Absolutely.
And, so thank you. That's definitely my orange. My lemon is I saw an old lady fall over.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That is a lemon.
Yes, that would be my thing.
Oh.
I know. She's fine. But
I'm glad she's all right.
Yeah.
That is a lemon. That's always really stressful.
I was going to say my plane was delayed and all that stuff, but that was the one that
got you.
Didn't like. Yeah.
Oh, God. I didn't actually think about this too much. My lemon, I was telling this story before. I've been catching the tram a lot lately, which I love. But there was a woman in front of me today. She was bending over. She almost dropped her bag, so I went to sort of help her. But as she bent over, her leggings were underneath her butt, and her butt was out. Because I was on the bottom step and she's on the top step, I just had her bum in my face. I was like, wow.
Was that your orange or your lemon?
Oh, that's my lemon. That is not my orange. Oh, my goodness. That would be pretty weird if that was my orange. I guess it depends on how you look at it. I got to see a bum.
Exactly. Some people would like that.
Oh, gosh. My orange is the fact that you came over from Adelaide to be here with us. It is. I know I always say that I'm not going to say the guest because it's awfully predictable. But yeah, having you over, first interstate guest, is pretty special. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you?
CeCe_Fertility Collective on Instagram.
Amazing.
Everything is there.
Everything, and it's such good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms, and don't forget you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.